Is the latest hammer blow to the British elite cycling scene actually the beginning of a revolution? Every winter, it seems like it all comes crashing down with team after team closing their doors. But why does it all feel different this time round? And this time, is there actually a glimmer of hope? Another winter, another British elite cycling team folding. Every off-season, it seems as though the same record plays out. Another long-standing team makes a sad announcement that it's closing its doors. The financial picture's not looking rosy enough, and the effort needed to sustain a squad isn't worth the diminishing returns a year navigating the peloton brings with it. Sadly, this off-season's no different as more teams take that checkered flag for the final time. SRCT, Raptor, Primera Team Jobs, they join the ranks of teams like Madison Genesis, St. Piran, One Pro Cycling, with Sun God and countless others in calling time on illustrious stints. But what does it mean for the financial and sporting context to a national scene that's tried its best to roll with the punches, but is starting to look increasingly tired and weary? Imagine building the best team on the British scene, delivering top-level results on a shoestring budget, working your way up from a few close friends in 2021 to having the best young British talents competing against world tour riders well on their way to professional careers. And then, it all comes crashing down. Scott Redding, a star of the motorbike racing scene, launched his self-named squad ahead of the 2022 campaign, and they took no time in making their mark on the scene with swashbuckling cameos in the Tour Series and the National Circuit Series as they lived their mission statement: give young British riders the chance to compete at the highest level, beginning with the Tour Series and racing criteriums against the UK's UCI teams. But as the Tour Series became yet another happy memory, the financial effort needed to sustain the team without the exposure and sponsorship lure of a televised series left the team with a mountain to climb that was looking more and more like Mount Everest. Even with the team running on a shoestring budget of just £8,000, as co-owner Adam Ellis revealed to the British Conti earlier this year, they punched well above their weight. As well as winning the team's competition in the National Road Series, Adam Howell battled through adversity, literally in the case of his crash to magnificent triumph at the Tour de Reservoir, to power his way to the individual title too. He proved that victory doesn't always mean having the biggest budget. But the purse strings were pulled ever tighter, and the team couldn't really make it work for another campaign. In his closing statement, Ellis said, "Our vision was always to create a platform for young riders to reach their full potential. In today's uncertain financial arena, sustaining a team at this level has become increasingly difficult. We're proud of what we built and we're grateful to everyone who's been a part of this journey." What that means for the riders is anyone's guess. And with time ticking down to the start of the 2026 season, there's yet more chaos and confusion rather than the optimism and positivity. The silver lining is that Ellis and Redding have committed themselves to continuing to support young talent in one form or another. So we can only hope that this isn't the last we'll see of the pair on the British scene. And in that spirit of cautious optimism, it's not all bad news coming from Raptor Factory Racing, and dare we say it, maybe even a hint at a new way of doing things. The slight dark cloud we need to explain away initially is that Raptor, the London-based bike manufacturer, has decided to stop sponsoring a team that it launched with a bang at the start of this year. The squad was new but impressive, with Dylan Hicks and Rowan Baker taking victories at the Beaumont Trophy and Peaks 2-Day respectively, demonstrating that maybe there's actually a pathway for a manufacturer to launch and run a team that provides a much needed outlet for young talent to shine. And it's worth highlighting the Raptors news isn't totally bad, because they're trying something different still. They've announced a £20,000 pot called the Raptor Collective Fund, which aims to support grassroots racing and emerging talent, giving grants of £50 all the way up to £1,000 to race organisers, under 23s, clubs and underrepresented groups. Notably, this support is actually cash and not just discounted bikes or kit, giving crucial financial support. They said, "One thing we've learned is that everyone in racing struggles because most brands give product and not cash. The collective fund is different. It's about real financial support because that's what the scene genuinely needs to keep moving forward." And continuing the positive vibes, Promethean Sports, the group that actually ran and managed the squad, has confirmed the team is returning with a new sponsor as Jack Rue Hansling, providing what could be a welcome home for some of the leading young lights of the British peloton. So why is all this happening year after year? The easy option would be for me to blame British cycling, but I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's their fault. The argument that's often made is that there's a lack of TV coverage, which they should pay for, which is true to some extent as it makes it easier for teams to prove return on investment to sponsors. But that's a sticking plaster. The lack of full broadcast coverage hasn't stopped some teams excelling and others, even where they're the best, from folding. And if you have incredible TV coverage, the bar to entry just becomes higher and team managers would be looking for even larger sums of money to be competitive. Instead, something that's been playing on my mind recently is that there's much more competition for sponsorship and advertising budgets than ever before in the cycling industry, or in any industry really. Social media offers companies more ways to spend that juicy marketing budget, whether it's an influencer or just easy access to Google or Instagram ads. And the whole industry suffered a downturn since the boom of COVID, with companies like Giant and Canyon reporting profits down 66 and 33% respectively, and Shimano just downgrading their outlook for the future. Honestly, the state of pro cycling sponsorship is a big pie to sink your teeth into, and it's probably worth us exploring in its own right. To be honest, I think you just have to expect some level of churn with teams, just like any other business. And that brings me on to a really important thing to note, which is that team managers in the UK are largely volunteers giving up their time for the sport they love, not businessmen, and expecting them to become full-time sponsorship fundraisers in the current climate alongside managing a team is a tall ask, especially when even world tour teams struggle with it. And here's an anecdote for you. In a year that we hit 100 million views on our content, I once asked a major cycling brand what we have to do to move away from their charity budget and into their marketing budget, which would have been much larger. And I think 100 million views just wasn't enough for them, which sounds crazy. And the British scene just wasn't the right fit for them at the time, but it was for other brands. And I can see people approaching that company thinking it's going to be an easy win, spending some of their finite time on it, failing and just coming to the conclusion that the sponsorship model is broken. But we ended up with a great sponsor in O'Neill Sportswear who've helped support our content throughout the season. They provide high quality custom kit and leisure wear for clubs. So if you're in the market for some new custom kit, please do check them out and show them some love. And what do the closing teams actually mean for the scene? Well, yeah, we've got the crushing blow that yet more teams will be pulling out of British racing. But maybe there's a glimmer of hope within this relatively gloomy winter. Raptor believes it's found a way to support a wider section of the emerging cycling scene, and that's got to be applauded. More and more riders are electing to go it alone and take the privateer approach to putting together a race program, so this will help them. Matt Holmes, Zancrease, we're looking at you. So being able to apply for a grant of up to £1,000 could be the difference between racing a full season and making tough choices on what events need to be dropped. And is this a sign that the cycling scene is starting to evolve or maybe reach a full-scale revolution? Certainly on the men's side of the sport, the old model clearly wasn't working. Teams are having to fold despite the passionate and dedicated work of team bosses who are trying to pull those budgets together. So maybe Raptor's Fund could be the start of something like a cycling version of Dragon's Den, a network of businesses and individuals who can provide no strings attached support to start rebuilding the scene from the ground up. You can tie in financial support with logistical support and management expertise from people like Adam Ellis and Scott Redding. And on top of that, there are other things to look forward to. The London Nocturne has announced its return after an 8-year hiatus. We'll get to that in another video. And plenty of squads have taken the fact that the negative news seems to permeate everywhere as a chance to shout about the good things that are happening, like increased sponsorship and expanded teams and opportunities for young riders, like Tafauti, Everyone Active, Magico, and Prologue Racing. It's a long shot, but we can only hope that behind what looks like yet more bad news for the men's cycling scene in the UK is actually the green shoots of recovery and perhaps a new way of doing things. So how do you think the British scene can reinvent itself and build back stronger? Let me know in the comments below.